Welcome back to the Shanti Ma podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please remember to hit like and subscribe. And if you're really enjoying the show, please feel free to leave a review. After all, every kind word counts. You can also support the podcast by becoming a member on Patreon. That's www.patreon.com/Shantima. With your support, I will be able to upgrade things such as the sound and video quality so that you can have the best experience possible. Today's guest is a dear old friend as well as a really stand-up fellow, and he goes by the name Damien Ketlo. Damien is a Carrier native of the Frog Clan from the Nadleh Whut'en Nation in British Columbia, Canada. He has a bachelor's degree in Native American Studies and is a motivational speaker who advocates for growth and change for Indigenous peoples, empowering local and Indigenous youth across the nation. He is a retired professional hockey player where he was drafted to the WHL at 15, but then retired at 27. Damien is also a singer-songwriter for the family hip-hop group Kedah Clan and the co-founder, producer, and engineer at Little Big Studios, releasing Kedah Clan's first EP in 2019. He has most recently gained notable fame after starring as a house guest on the TV series Big Brother Canada Season 7, where he was voted Canada's favorite player consistently throughout the season. Please give it up for the one, the only, Damien Ketlo.
My words again, always question me. Speak the same name, but the truth won't follow me. Always to pretend, up in my own head. Sleep in bed and nails scratch the surface from where you sleep. On a quest to see, change your misery. Try to turn the page, higher vision, let me be. Dark cloud rise above, embrace with all my love. As we move into the rain, by my side with all my pain, let's rise.
3, 2, 1. Sup, Damien?
What's up, Shanti? How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm not too bad, you know. It's a sunny day. I've been shoveling a lot of snow lately. Winter's here for real, but I'm glad to be a part of your podcast, so thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. Thank you so much for coming on. Yeah, I was noticing that you had some pretty intense heaps of snow. We got a little bit here, but it's now all slush and rain.
Heaps of snow. Are you talking Aussie now?
Oh, man. So forgive all the listeners right now. I have a little bit of a cold happening. So if you get the witch cackle, we're going with it.
Then Damien it's a real cackle then.
Damien says it sounds familiar. So. Okay, so I guess like the first thing is what happened in the Big Brother house for you?
Oh, my God. Well, first of all, I got into the house somehow. And then all of a sudden, I was going on stage and Arissa was there, you know, the usual, and except I was by myself and I was like, oh my God, this is real. And then before you know it, I go through those doors and I'm in an empty Big Brother house. And what happened, well, I guess the rest is history. I just basically held on very tightly as much as I can on that rocky road, hit the block a lot of times, you know, tested myself entirely, like the hardest thing I've ever done. And then, basically it just happened in a blink of an eye, even though it seemed like a really, really long time in the house. It was slow time in the house, but now looking back, it happened in the blink of an eye. So,
how long were you actually in there?
I was in the house for 55 days.
Oh my God.
And then jury after that, which I just basically like caught up on sleep because I was exhausted from not being able to sleep in the house. And, you know, it was definitely a test. I'll say that. Yeah.
What, were the beds comfortable?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, the beds were comfortable. I had to share it like with Mark for the first bit that I was there.
Did he snore?
I'm not too sure. I was so tired by the time like they told us, okay, houseguests go to bed. I was just like, okay, I'm out. Like nothing's gonna stop me from sleeping, except for that like thoughts of the blood veto and everything. That first week I was on the block, and I was worried about that veto that I seen that I never ever got to get because let's be honest, I think that was a little bit of a flop. But yeah, and the difference between the red room and the blue room is the temperature in the red room is ridiculously hot. So like it was pretty crazy. Yeah. So I don't know.
Do they do that on purpose?
I can't. I don't know. I think maybe they did to drive us a little nuts, but at the same time, I don't know. Maybe it's just the way the house was built and stuff. But like, it was pretty ridiculous. It would like add an extra element of extra heat, and like you're going nuts in that house. So like all the elements were testing me, and I was just like, breathe, Damien, you're gonna be okay. And so, but yeah, I got through it. I'm still alive. I can check my pulse. Yeah.
Do you have flashbacks, nightmares?
Oh. I'll tell you one funny story. Like, so like my room upstairs in my house it's blue. It's like a darker blue. My first week out of the house, like once I moved home and got back to kind of normality, I woke up one time and the room was red. And I was like in a dream state or something. Like something was going on, and I was like freaking out. And I was looking at Em, and she was like saying, "Babe, it's me. I love you. Wake up." And I was just like, what the hell? And then I called my work. And I was like, yeah, I need another week off. I'm a little PTSD'd out here. It's pretty crazy. So yeah, because like we lived that for so long, right? So like that's one of my stories. I was like, holy crap! Like whatever people see through the screen, unless you're an actual house guest in the show, once you live it physically, then you'll realize like, wow, this stuff is for real. Like all of it's pretty more real than you think. Reality TV is pretty hardcore.
I couldn't do it. I was watching you on there, and I was just like, how many moments I was like saying to Bronson, I was like, oh my God, poor Damien. I was like, I couldn't do it. We're both like, oh no, we'd kill somebody for sure.
Yeah, right.
Just couldn't do it.
Yeah, and those things cross your mind. Trust me. Like, but
yeah,
like,
how many homicidal thoughts did you have when you were
like? I just go like black it out and go play drums on furniture and get it. Like that was my outlet.
Oh, yeah. So what was the slop made of? I must know.
Basically, it's like oatmeal in that green powdered, veggie drink you can get, and mix it with other stuff. It's basically like mush. So like, I guess you could say I had an advantage for slop because, it's not like I physically experienced this myself, but my ancestors already went through residential school and survived off mush and were starving in that sense. So I was just like, okay, like my ancestors have done this. So I guess I had the mental advantage from that kind of thing. So like, yeah, it was pretty crazy. And me, I'm very good at chugging. So like, I can chug like a beer in a couple seconds, or a glass of water, I guess you could say, really quickly. So I thought, okay, slop will be easy. It'll be easy. I'll just chug it and I'll get on with my day. But you don't realize that like once you chug it, it just goes through your system just as fast because it's in a liquid state. So you actually got to eat the slop physically, else, else it's not going to stick in your stomach and you're just going to be hungry. But I do recommend slop if you're trying to cut some weight and get a little more lean. But for me, I eat a lot and I need to survive. So
hey, I've been at the dinner table with the Ketlos before.
Yeah, right.
You better eat fast, or you're not going to get some.
I have a problem with eating my elbows like this, so, and I'm like last child, so it's like, I had to freaking. Okay, supper's ready. Okay, I gotta go. It's go time, right? Survival.
Keep up, son. Yeah, you're not gonna get any.
Exactly. Big family, Good food, big family. Survival of the fittest.
So, I know that you had a few of your followers ask a few Big Brother questions. So, let's go to a couple of those questions while we're on the topic before we switch gears.
Yeah. Get the rapid fire over with, It's good. Cool.
So what was the best and worst part of your Big Brother experience?
I think the best part was like being able to represent First Nations entirely. Like going into the house, I already knew like I had a job to do. I had to change perspective and kind of like change people's perspectives and not paint us all with one brush per se, because people tend to do that. So it was like me going in, my past and my life, all the teams I've played on, all the different hockey teams, I've had the chance to like change people's perceptions. So now I just got to do it on a national scale, and also playing Big Brother in general. I think so. That's like there's so many cool things from the show. Just being able to taken part in such a surreal experience that, like, you know, only a handful of people get to do this, and I was privileged to be one of those people. Like come on, right? And I think the hardest part about being in the house was, like, I'm a big sleeper. And, like, I'm not sure how long we slept in that house because we didn't really have a sense of time because, you know, so, like, just me always just, like, doing, like, the university nod when the prof's speaking. You're like, you know, you're doing one of these. So I was just like, it's like the same thing in the house, that and being and slop and sleeping on the floor and just being away from my being cut off from the outside world, being away from like Emma and my family and my mom and dad, just being able to have that phone call away. That was definitely one of the hardest experiences. And just, I think one of the hardest, I guess I'm just giving you multiple answers. One of the hardest things as well was, like, when I went in the house, I was like, I don't want to be first out. And then, like, all of a sudden I'm on the block and I'm, like, getting all these freaking things going on. And I'm worried. I was like, it was just, there's so many things that were hard and so many things that were great about it. You know, I could go on.
Well, that's what actually I was going to ask you was, what was that like, not having social media, not having, like, a phone, like, no contact with the outside world? Like, I mean, if you were on vacation somewhere tropical, maybe on, like, a deserted island, that might be okay. But in the Big Brother house, how was that?
It was good. It was refreshing. You know, like, we live in a world where we're constantly like this, or we're constantly like this, you know, and it's just like, and then, like, previously watching the show, I wondered, like, how do these people know each other so well? Like, like, you know, and then once you live it, you get it, because it's like, okay, I don't have a phone, I don't have these social media distractions. I actually have to talk with people one-on-one and actually, like, listen and not have, like, preemptive thoughts of, like, you know, or too much self-dialogue. So you actually have to, like, talk to people and get to know them. So it was refreshing in that manner. And then, like, we're off the grid, so it was cool in that sense.
Yeah, because that's the thing, like, I find, like, with cell phones and technology and everything, it's you know, and I've even found myself doing that before, where, you know, if I think someone's going to talk to me in an elevator, and it's like, you know, some old man who's, like, I can see he's looking at me and wants to, like, get in there somewhere. I'm like,
yeah,
I'm so busy on my phone right now.
Yeah.
You know, and it's an opportunity to disconnect.
Yeah, right.
And I think you actually miss out on a lot of opportunity to speak to people, and, like, maybe on a good day, you know, you have an open mind, you have a conversation with that same, you know, man, and you're like, oh, that brightened my day. That was, like, such a wonderful 2-minute conversation. But yeah, I find that I think I went without a cell phone for a little while when I was in Thailand, like almost 10 years ago. Yeah. And that was great. Just because, other than, like, the 90s, we had cell phones.
It was like a chore to carry a cell phone in the 90s. I didn't even know, because I live in, like, the bush. So, like, but, like, yeah, it's totally, it's cool, and it gives you, like, a deeper, like, understanding of how, like, the world used to be, and kind of reflect on that and stuff like that. It's cool. It's I enjoyed that part of it, even though it was hard not having that phone call away. But, you know, it was cool.
What about this is a thought that I was having. I was thinking, you know, I'm like, you're from, like, such a beautiful place in BC, and you're used to, you know, running water and just nature being all around you. What was it like to not see a tree?
Oh, it was, yeah, like, I already dealt with that, like, playing in, like, Saskatchewan, you know, but just being in locked in the house kind of thing, and not, like, your daylight is when we're in the hot tub area, and that's it, right? But you're surrounded by, like, walls, and so that's all you really get is the sky. So that was tough. It was like it said, it tested me on so many different avenues. So it was just add that to the equation there.
Oh, I can only imagine. So I know that another question here that some of your fans had was, how was casting for Big Brother? Did you bring up being Indigenous?
Yeah, that was totally my plan going into it. Casting wasn't too bad. I know I can't say too much about production, but I will say what I can. You know, other house guests, their casting has, let's just say they've done years of casting. We can say that, I think. And for me, it was good. I just went and was myself. when I sent my video in and got a call back, and the rest is history. But one of the things I said in my video when I sent it out was that I am First Nations, and I'm proud to be where I'm from, and I am going to go into the house and be a positive, reflection of that aspect. So.
And whose idea was it for you to go on the show?
Yeah, I think everybody knows that question, but yeah, Em's idea. She believes in me entirely, no matter what I do. She's like my main supporter, my teammate. I was just at work one day in some meetings and looked down at my phone, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm signing you up for Big Brother because you're gonna make it on." And I sent in a video that night, like maybe 2 hours, and it was like. We kind of had like this feeling once I was pressing that enter button on the online submission, right? And I like looked at her. I was like, "You sure you want to do this, babe? Because it might come true." And she's like, "Let's do it." We're like kind of scared. We press enter. We're like, "Oh, I think this might happen." And it was weird. We had like this sense of like this is gonna happen, and it did. And it's crazy. It's nuts. Like this kid from the res from like the middle of nowhere who.
I'm just gonna quickly look here. Oh yeah, would you ever do another season of Big Bro again?
Oh, for sure. Like, why not? Like, everybody knows I'm not a no guy. Like, so like I think you got to say yes to opportunities as they come. And even though this like opportunity is so rare, the chances of it happening again are super rare. So why would I ever say no, right?
Right.
Even though it's going to be hard.
Yeah, I was going to say, as I was thinking of that, I was like literally picturing you dangling off of that beam.
Oh my God.
Like when you guys had to hold on, how hard was that? That looked tough.
That was so hard. And it was so funny because right before the competition, like we were like, man, all the dudes were like, yeah, we got this, we got this. And like, I had a feeling because I remember I had a feeling Corey was going to do well. So,
yeah, she's a beast.
She's awesome. She's so strong. Like doing her workouts with her in the house, like, it's so cool because I'm like, I'm like retired from hockey, so I'm not doing all those crazy like, core workouts all the time, and like, so I'm lifting more weights and stuff like that. So like to get that refreshment of like choreo workouts, it was awesome, and plus like doing like all the bridges and planks with her and stuff like that in the house, it was like this woman's strong. And then one time we were hanging from the bars, and we're all like on the cage in the workout room area in the backyard there, and like we're all the girls were hanging on and like, let's see who can hold on the longest. And Corey is like holding on, and she's like not even moving. And I'm like looking at her because you're testing everybody, right? All the time. Right. You're always looking and seeing how like strong they are in their avenues and stuff like that. But she let go early, and I could tell. And I was like, she let go, and she's not even trying in this. Like just like our mini little competition we had before the competition. We didn't know that competition was coming, but that was the toughest competition. Like I had scars on my hands from like holding on so long and stuff like that.
Whoa.
Like a few of us did in the house. I didn't have it the worst injuries from it, but I was up there because I think I came in fourth in that, and then we all started dropping like flies. But it was hilarious. We thought, we're gonna hold on forever, like half hour, and all of a sudden we're like first minute we're just like looking at each other like, holy crap, this is really freaking hard, man. And then like the slippery stuff came, and then that's when I was done. I was trying to hold on as long as I could, but didn't get her done.
Yeah, what was the hardest competition you did?
That one for sure. Yeah.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
okay.
That one was so hard, so difficult. Yeah, it's really, yeah.
I saw you swallowing hot dogs in one bite, like whole.
Yeah, right?
You did so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the competition with wasn't it like hot dogs or something like that?
Oh, it was just
like the food.
Yeah, slop dogs, slop dessert. I can't remember. Like I remember, like it
slop
was
salad. Yeah, or whatever.
And it was just like, okay, like I guess I could like compare the same thing. Like I'm already good at chugging, so it's like, okay, I can. Like, well, you've seen me eat around the dinner table at the Ketlo house, right? Like, I can eat pretty fast. So, yeah, I knew that. Like, I was like, when that one came, I was like, okay, I'm not losing this competition for sure. And then the hockey boys, like, Dane did the same thing. Like, he was wolfing down the stuff too. So, it was pretty funny. Like, just hockey players, you get 20 guys in a room at an all-you-can-eat buffet. Like, and also the upbringing for my family. So, you learn how to eat quick. I knew that one was going to be a breeze, even though it wasn't a breeze because I puked and Chelsea saw a full view of that. So
I know as soon as that competition came on, I was like, he's gonna kill it.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. At least,
I was rooting for you.
Yeah,
I was like yelling at the TV.
Oh.
Bronson's like, that no one can hear you except for me, right?
Yeah. Oh man, and that's what I knew. Like all my friends were watching, and I was like, guys, I'm really trying to win. This is hard.
So another question one of your fans had was, did you experience any discrimination or racism in the Big Brother house?
Well, no, not directly, but like I don't think I experienced any discrimination or racism. Discrimination in the sense of being like a threat, but we also had these things happen like the second week. You know, we had a house split in the vote, and when you look at who voted which way, you can see people more of color on one side, I would say.
I never noticed that
in that aspect. So I was thinking about like that. And we do live in like a world that's like kind of like dominated in the Eurocentric values. So I don't think I experienced racism like, you know, directly per se, but you know, there is like the values of just like the social constructs. So no, I didn't deal with racism, but you know, there's always those elements where you just feel like you're in your subconscious mind that like, why is certain people not on the block all the time, and why are certain people like huddled together and stuff like that? So that's as far and as deep as I'll go with that. But you know, there's just like, you know, you kind of experience that in general in the world. So yeah.
Well, Damien, you just weren't greasy enough.
Yeah, right.
You weren't slimy enough.
I know.
Let's see here. Go into the questions. You got some good questions here. What's your favorite fellow cast member from BB Can?
Oh, you know, that's tough. There's
no, it isn't.
But I like Mackie. Mackie and I have been chatting a lot lately, and you know, he just I texted him yesterday. You know, he just came out with an album, so that's pretty cool. So me and him on a artsy, you know, level, I guess we can relate pretty good. And then Dane and I talk quite a bit too, and so, but yeah, so yeah.
Right on. It's funny. I really liked Mackie too. He was so honest, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, yeah, that would be the position I would be in. I'd be like too honest, share too much, and then, you know, like, because in your own mind and in your heart, you're just like pure, and then
he was like me, right? He's just like, I'm just going with flow, man. I just believe in everything, and then all of a sudden he's just going out the window. I'm like, oh no.
Except I do know this because I remember Johnny saying it to me. He said that, I forget, one of your family members, or maybe it was one of your parents, that said, keep your eyes and ears open and your mouth shut.
Yeah.
Isn't that like something that you guys have like well known in your family, like as a rule to like be smart and keep your eyes and ears open and your mouth shut?
Yeah. In a perfect world, right? I think I'm mostly the one who does that the best in my family. But sometimes, you know, I think I've learned that entirely just from all the things I've done. Like, you know, keep your mouth shut. Like all the things I do in my life are like kind of, I'm like always trying to do the anchor role. I've been a drummer, you know, I've been a goalie, and now I'm like kind of doing most of the Kedah Clan stuff. So it's just like, okay, you got to be a professional, and in a professional world, sometimes you just got to shut up and listen and reflect on it, and then answer it later, because your emotional answer may not be the right one, right? And it might, and then people will paint you with that for the rest of how you react, right? They're like, oh, this guy just he's a spaz, so you know, we can't have him around. So
yeah, see, and I think that actually that was a conversation that I was having with somebody where for men, they feel a lot more of pressure to keep their composure, because if you have that emotional reaction, people will be like, oh, this guy's crazy. Oh, and it's like something primal in you that thinks there's a weakness, whereas women, it's so accepted for us to be emotional and crazy and hormonal and all that stuff. So I feel like we can get away with a lot more than you can.
I'm gonna be quiet on that one. See, I'm already taking my my little thing, and I'm just gonna be quiet, reflect on it. You know, let's talk about it later. No, I'm just kidding.
No, share.
No, I think guys, you know, that intimidation factor, you know, definitely comes into play. So yeah, like, and then like today in 2020, you know, if you're like the alpha male dominant and stuff, people are like, you know, they get all crazy about that nowadays. So it's just like, okay, I'll chill. I can be chill. It's okay.
But you know what? The alpha male, though, but, you know, on a side tangent, we'll come back to Big Brother, everyone. I swear. But the thing is that actually the alpha male thing is somebody who is calm and in control of their emotions. It's not the person who's like, you know,
insecure,
puffing up their chest and trying to fight everyone.
Yeah,
like
right.
You know, like, so I.
No,
yeah,
I hear you on that one. Yeah, I'll go with that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that. Okay, so another question here. Let's see. Another Big Brother question. If you could change anything in the Big Brother game, what would it be and why?
Well, I'd be a little more ruthless. No, I'm just kidding. You know, I think one of the things is maybe during Corey's HOH, I would have, you know, been out to get the guys a little more, because at the end of the day, they weren't really, you know, they had their own thing and their own pact, and maybe it would have changed the trajectory a little bit from there. And like one of those guys would have gone out and it would have shaken things up, and then it would have been a little bit more everybody's game because they wouldn't have so many numbers. So right. I think that was like, but then, you know, Corey's getting like, she was getting like her strings pulled by all the guys in that HOH as well too, like with Anthony and whatnot. So yeah, that was tough. And I don't know, maybe I should have shot right in the pool game instead of left and not trusted Dane so much, and that could have changed too. There's a number of things. Oh geez. Like,
have you guys talked about that since? Like obviously after the game was over, you can talk about all sorts of stuff, because you said you speak with him quite a lot. Yeah,
we mostly vented and stuff, and I was just like, dude, like, what the fuck? Like, come on, man. Like, but at the end of the day, he won. So you know, and being in the BC Alliance, you know, Kiki, SD, and I really didn't give him much to play with, even though he told Mark about the BC Alliance right off the bat and everything. So it was like, okay, we didn't give him much to work with. I understand. And you know what? I'm happy for the guy. And he's dreamt of like playing this game like throughout his whole life. So like, and he won. So it's pretty crazy for him. Pretty cool.
Yeah, he did do it well.
yeah, he did good. Well, he won, right?
Yeah, of course. He was entertaining to watch as well. So actually something I thought of was, you mentioned that your audio wasn't working, because I know you have had a lot of questions about why you didn't expose the pretty boys. Yeah, because I didn't hear anything.
Like, I seen them talking, but I also seen everybody else talking. I also seen everybody else talking with everybody else. And I seen them go into the kitchen, but I had no audio. And then everyone's like, why didn't you expose the pretty boys? Well, I didn't know the pretty boys existed entirely. Like, I had, like, and then, you know, and then at the end of the day, too, they were winning all the competitions. So what was I supposed to do? I was already on the block every freaking other week. What was I supposed to do? Expose them and get voted out unanimously? Like, So there's like multiple aspects. But yeah, I couldn't hear anything when I got the first candidate vote and I went into the house early. And I was saying that. I was like, hey, I can't hear anything. You know, you guys want to help me out here, see what they're talking about. So by the time that happened, all their alliance was formed, and the rest is history again.
Interesting. Yeah, because on our end, it looked like you could hear everything that was happening. So do you think that was done intentionally to, you know?
I don't know. Who knows at this point? No, I don't think it was done intentionally to save my bacon. It was a mistake. No, all the audio. There's so much technological things going on there. So it's just like, you know. Right?
Yeah, it's true. You'd never be able to know.
5 minutes of the show, right? They're like,
exactly.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess we've got another question here about the Big Brother house. I think this is the last one.
Okay.
About that. We'll come back to a few in a bit.
Yeah.
Did you ever get the vibe that anyone in the house had a crush on you?
The vibe, well, no vibe from Eddie, that's for sure. Like, he was straight up, I think. He was hilarious. You'd always watch me during workouts and stuff like that, and you're just like, Damien, you're so hot. It's hilarious. So I was just like, okay. So Eddie for sure. And I know in a high school manner, I'm pretty sure Kiki and Esty had a little crush on me. So, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's about it, I think. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, I know I have a question for you here. So things kind of blew up after Big Brother for you, and you were living in isolation, and then you just kind of came out, and all of a sudden you've got all these fans and you're kind of famous. Like, what was that like? Was that super weird?
Yeah, it was totally weird. Like, well, first of all, like, after the show ended, I didn't even turn my phone on. Like, I just kept it off. I didn't reach out on social media or anything. I was had the privilege to bring Em on a camping trip where all the house guests go after the show, and we went out of town in Toronto. Peter Brown puts that on, and excuse me. And so, like, even during like those days, like my fellow house guests were turning on their phones and going down like the Twitter wormhole or the Instagram wormhole, and some things were positive, some things were negative. So I was just like, whoa, I'm just gonna hold back for a bit. And then once that camping trip was over, like Em kind of like gave me a couple like warnings and stuff like, okay, this might happen here. Your phone's gonna blow up when you turn it on. I was like, okay. Then we got to the airport in Toronto, and I still didn't turn on my phone, but I was walking down like to get to my gate or whatever, and like people were like looking at me, and then I sat down and we went for like grabbed a little bite to eat, and people came up to me and like, hey, Damien, could I have a picture? And that's when it hit me. I was like, holy crap, like these random people are coming up to me, and like not just like a couple people, like several, and I was just like, this is nuts. And then what finally sat down, waited for my my first flight back home, turned on my phone, and just boom, it was just like, holy crap. So that's like when I made that post. It was like, hey, thank you for everything, and let's like let me take my time getting back into this, because this is like when it's like 0 to 100 like that, just like that. So and I still get recognized today, and it's just like I forget now because everything's kind of a little bit more normal. The honeymoon phase is over, but you know, so like even like I was in like a gas station the other day, and my sister was with me, and this guy's like, I wish you would have won, man. And I was like, what are you talking about? Oh, right, yeah. And my sister's like, what's he talking about? I was like, Tamara, I was on Big Brother. She's like, oh, right. So it's pretty funny. But it's cool. I embrace it. And at first it was a little overwhelming. Like, I found, I went out one time in Prince George, and
where did you go out? Does the generator still exist?
No, the generator does not exist.
Jenny.
we went bar hopping that night. It was fun. I stayed at the coast in Prince George, and all my friends came out with us, and we just hit a bunch of bars. But as the night progressed, as there was more like I guess more intoxicated rooms, like more as the night got like more late, more people are getting a little too drunk and a little too brave. And then by the last bar, I just got bombarded. We went to the last bar for like 10 minutes. I was like, we got to get out of here. This is crazy. So in that sense, yeah, I realized people like are more respectful in a sober setting, and they're kind of like tiptoe around you and like look at you weird. And I'm just like, hey, you can say hi, it's cool, it's just me. But in the bar setting, like at the last bar, it was like too much, and I was like, I got to get out of here. I can't even enjoy my drink and hang out with my friends. I got people coming from left and right, and won't leave me alone.
Damien,
yeah,
best, man. Have you ever had anybody cry about you?
yeah. That was the same night. There's this one guy who wouldn't stop crying. He's like, I can't believe it's Damien. I was like, yo, dude, I'm from here too. Like, chill out. I'm just human.
I'm a human being.
Yeah, I'm human, man. I'm just like you, man. It's just like, okay, relax. But I guess it was pretty crazy. But that's cool. Like I did a meet and greet and at the casino one time, and this kid like couldn't come in the casino, so I went outside and met him because he was underage, obviously. So it's cool in that sense. So you get to like people, you know. Apparently his dream came true that day, and I was just like, really, like just me, like, but like for him it's a different I guess it's a different idea in that sense.
Yeah, well, but you know, the thing is that you held your head high. Like, you played that game with dignity and integrity, and you feel like you're the only person who played it like that. And so I think that that's a huge reason why you were so well liked across Canada.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, Rita.
Heck yeah. So why was being a positive representation for your community so important to you and for First Nations?
Just to, like I kind of said before, just to not like people's experiences with like First Nations people or Indigenous people. They're just like, they always like kind of paint us all with one brush, and they don't realize that, you know, there's a negative dark history within Canada regarding assimilation tactics and residential schools and the 60s scoop. The list goes on, and just like trying to, get rid of, in not politically correct terms, like getting rid of the Indian problem and stuff like that, So like, and then our people, like, there's tons of intergenerational trauma in that matter and stuff like that. So like, I just wanted to show people that, like, we are coming out on the positive side of this equation, despite Canada's dark history, and despite the world's dark history. The same thing happened in the States, New Zealand, the list goes on and stuff like that. It's just, it's sad, but I just wanted to show people that, even though we do have people dealing with hardships, there's like people that are doing good things in this world, and everyone's got their hardships, no matter what race you are, So I just wanted to show people that, it's tough. I just wanted to show people that, like, we're good people and we're human beings too, and that you need to change your perspective because it's 2020, and whatever you picked up from your parents, because of like all the hate that became and all the racism that came out of all that, the time to change is now, and we need to do that now and not just start talking about it. And I got the privilege of educating Canada in the process of what like actually happened, and then also just like showing people we're good people, we're big-hearted people, and we're proud of where we come from, and also just to show like First Nations people, elders down the youth, that like to be proud of who you are. I know in the residential school system, lots of Native people are like scared to be who they are, and not proud because it was beaten out of them, in different aspects. So it's just like to learn your language, be a good person, protect our women, like things like that. We don't always have to go down the negative road. We can choose to go down the positive one. We can dream, we can chase those dreams. And like, I'm from the res as well. So like, if I can do it, you can do it. So like, just go for it and put yourself out there, and give these kids, the youth, something to like strive for. And like, and I'm not the only like First Nations person who has done this, but I'm just trying to add to the equation, right? So it's just like, it's cool, and I was super proud to do that on a national scale.
That's awesome, and really well said, and a great way to represent, and I feel like it really came across. And I really liked the teaching moments that you had on Big Brother as well, when people were asking you questions. I would say I wish that there was like more of those moments on there.
Yeah,
but
right. Well,
I don't know how much they zone in on who's saying what, know?
Well, they picked a handful, but I talked throughout like about things like that consistently during my whole time in the house. Obviously they picked a couple, but they picked a couple, and they let me do my thing, and when I was on the show. It was crazy. Even we think like it's 2020, and in that sense it was 2019. You think we all know about Canada's history, but we don't. Like even when Esty didn't know what a reserve was, and I had to like educate her on what a reserve was, and I was like, you guys,
that blew my mind.
Yeah, that blew my mind too. And like Esty is like, she's going to university, right? And so you think like, when I went to university, at least you had to take like an introduction to Native American studies, right? Right. So like I'm not sure, like in the education department, it should be mandatory for every Canadian to take something in regards to that matter, right? So it's just I was lucky enough to teach people about that, but like when you go out more east, I found like people kind of live more in a bubble, and it's just like, no, like this is what happened, you guys, you need to know this. So yeah, I was thankful to do that.
Yeah, it's an important part of Canadian history, and I feel like, even when people, like whether people are from like West Coast, East Coast, or whether you are, coming in from another country and becoming a Canadian citizen, I think that that's an important part of our history that everyone should learn. So, yeah, actually, because there's like a few, I'm noticing that I went on and I did a lot of reading, and I'm realizing like you're super involved. You're doing all sorts of stuff in your community, and you've got some stuff here in Saskatchewan. Like you've kind of moved into motivational speaking around some of this. I also wanted to just quickly say that I'm having a little bit of a hard time hearing you. I don't know, it cut out a few minutes ago.
Okay.
And it sounds like I'm having a little bit of a hard time hearing you.
Check. Is that better? I don't know.
Yeah.
Should I go right up to the mic? Is that good?
Yeah, it sounds a little bit better. I know we've got a backup audio here, but I
Yeah.
just was having a little bit of a hard time hearing you. Okay, perfect.
Let's turn my preamp one more notch here.
Okay, cool. Bear with us, folks.
There we go. Check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hopefully that's a little bit better. The greens.
Yeah, that's better.
The greens. Here, one more actually.
Okay.
Doing my Kedah Clan production here. The vocal takes here. Check. There we go. All right. I think that's good.
Oh yeah, that's better for sure.
Okay,
I'm not
cool.
sure what happened there, but actually, I was going to ask you. I was reading on your website bio that the Ketlo name used to be, and if I butcher this, Kadutlo. Is that right?
Kedah Clan. It's like Kedah Clan. Yeah. You can like
Okay.
say Kedah Clan or Kedah Clan,
Kedah
and then yeah. So yeah,
Okay, so I butchered it. Sorry.
that's okay. That's okay. That's why I got changed to Ketlo.
I tried. So anyways, but that was before it was colonized. So I actually wanted to ask you, like, what did colonization look like in your own family history?
Well, I guess colonization looked like, the same thing that kind of like happened for everybody. Like, first of all, the name means like wet moccasins. So like, my great grandfather, or however many times it is, he got his name from he was always in the river fishing. So like when he went, and then in carrier language, when he got out of the water, he always had wet moccasins. So, and then that translation carrier is Kedah Clan. So that's how we got our name. So it's traditional in that sense. Colonization for our family is kind of the same as everybody. My grandpa, my great uncle, even my dad, everybody went to residential school, right? So, our language was kind of like beaten out of us. So like I don't speak the traditional language. My dad does. So there's just like my grandpa had pneumonia and was left for dead in the Lee Jack residential school, which is just down the road from us. So then you get like someone like that who, passes down like intergenerational trauma. There's like, for our people, like alcoholism kind of is like, it's a pretty apparent, I guess you could say, just being proud of who you are. There's a lot of hurt within our people in regards to that, in regards to Native people in general. So it's just, a little bit of trauma here and there, and loss of our culture, loss of our identity, and our language. My dad speaks the carrier language entirely, but in his mind, when you think about his upbringing, for him to teach us the traditional language, like we still like hunt and we do all those like those traditional things, but just like our language is like a big aspect of that. For him, in his perspective, is like when he was growing up, in the Eurocentric way, Western society was more successful, was given more opportunities. So he didn't see like how it would benefit us to like learn our language. So like for like colonization and stuff like that, that's just like one of the aspects. We lost like a number of things. We lost our bathlatch systems, our potlatch systems and stuff like that. We're still kind of bringing that back and revitalizing it, like our clan systems and just like kind of like our kinship and our government systems, but all of it's kind of lost. We talk about bringing back our hereditary chiefs a lot, but at the same time, it's a hard thing to do. That happens overnight. It's going to take years and years and years to bring like all those traditional government systems back. So like basically everything on an even note was kind of just lost wherever you put it in different piles. So
Right.
yeah, so and it's just it's hard to see. But at the same time, like with our generation, it's up to us to like kind of like, bridge that path and kind of put it forward in a positive manner, no matter what kind of happened, even though like there is a lot of negative things from colonization. There's nothing we can do about it now. It's in the past. Acknowledge it and see how we can kind of reflect and move on make change for the better. So yeah, in that sense, that's how colonization kind of worked for my family. It was tough. I'm glad I have a tough family who survived residential school. So lots of people didn't get that opportunity. Beyond my family, there's 4 kids who got robbed from their homes, and they were so scared at Jack Residential School, they ran away, tried to make it back to Nadleh when they were just kids. I think they were 10 and 11 years old. There's 4 boys, and they made it a kilometer short of Nadleh and froze to death. There's like other, so there's just like, there's so many things that happened, and our poor people have been through a lot, but we're resilient. So that's the good thing about all the colonization we've kind of dealt with. And fortunately for me, I had a good upbringing with my parents and everything, but a lot of people aren't so lucky. There's a lot of hurt in the communities and stuff like that, and people don't know why they pass down on the hurt, but it's just like something they do subconsciously because they've dealt with so much in their own terms, right? So yeah, I was fortunate enough to be lucky, but for some people, not so much. So that's why I love giving back to my community. I want to give people the chance, because my parents gave me every chance I could, right? They put me on their backs entirely. Lots of kids I see, they don't get that chance. So it's like me, okay, I've already gone and done and lived my dreams. I'm still trying to continue doing it, but how can I give back to the community? And so that's I see some of these kids who are they are some of our people are poor, and they don't know where their next meal is coming from and stuff like that. So it's just okay, how do I give back and try and at least give people the opportunities that they are not going to get? Can I change that in any matter? So it's pretty crazy. That was a long answer, but you could just see how the snowball effect goes from just things that happen from the top down, right?
Yeah. No, I didn't feel like it was a long answer. I was just enjoying learning and hearing a lot of things that I don't know. And, I think it's important that we do talk about it.
Yeah.
Because like you said, if people don't even know what a reserve is, they don't know the history.
Yeah.
I think it's just something that should be talked about. And as we were as I was listening to you, I was thinking, I wanted to ask, and I'm going to say, I don't know if this is too sensitive, but I wanted to ask, what did residential school look like for a lot of people? Or what did it look for people? Because the thing is, that is something that I also think, people should know, because I think a lot of people are quite ignorant to that. And you're talking about intergenerational trauma, and that is very, very, that's very true, because they've proven now, I've talked about this before, they've proven now that things that ancestors, family members, 5 generations before experienced, you may have never been exposed to, but still have those same traumas. And so I think maybe to shed a little bit of light, you don't have to go into it too much or at all if you don't want to, but.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, I think it needs to be said. Even when you just go to a library, open up a book and go listen to elders' stories of their experiences in residential school. In the 60s scoop, 60s scoop is another thing you can add to that aspect.
What's that?
The 60s scoop?
The 60s scoop.
Yeah, so social workers would come onto the reserve, and from their perspective, the way we lived traditionally, through surviving off, moose or sungi and berries and whatnot, living off the land, that wasn't accepted in their version of society. So when they came to the reserves and seeing us surviving like that, they thought it was unfit. So they just painted us with that brush and started taking kids off the reserve, even after residential school, because they thought, we couldn't raise a child, even though it takes a community to raise a child on reserves. And that was also when the reserves were implemented too. So it's we were also put down, had a foot on our own system because we couldn't leave the reserve and stuff like that too. So, and then residential school, there's the abuses are just like, you can just name something, and it happened. I know there's accounts of physical and mental abuse, sexual abuse, violence towards one another, and malnutrition. The list goes on. Like for another account, like here's another story from Lejac residential school, and all these are true stories that happened. So it's like the nuns and the priests, like they weren't even fit to be teaching there, like, and they're racist themselves, and like didn't care about lots of these kids. There was 2 brothers from Nadleh, and they got taken away from their homes and brought to Lejac residential school, and they were starving, and like they had a fight outside, and the people who were running the school, the nuns or the priests or whoever was running it, the supervisors or whatever, they're like, okay, this is your food, so you got to fight to the death. Like, and these 2 were brothers, and they killed each other. Like, one survived, and they didn't even know they were brothers because they were like, taken separately on separate occasions. And then, so there's like this, add that to the story. And just like, like perverted people like running these schools and abusing our people. It's just like, you think like, you're like, well, why are some people hurting so much? Why do they turn to drugs and alcohol and go down this negative path? Well, they never had a chance to begin with, because, all this trauma was passed down. And people don't know that they're passing it down, but they don't have the right help to go to, or like the outlets, like, okay, we got like compensated with a big lump sum of money. That's not going to really help you. What are you going to do with that money? You're going to go like, go blow it. And it's just like, so it's just like, okay, like we can't throw money at our problems from like what the government is trying to do in the past and stuff. But like, it's crazy. My uncle, my great uncle, he went to like the morgue areas where they used to practice autopsies and stuff, and he was just a kid, and he had to hold the guts in of a body, and he was a kid, he was a boy, he was like 8 or 9 years old. And could you imagine being 8 or 9 years old holding the guts in of a body because they're doing an autopsy, because they're trying to do scientific experiments, and it's probably your own people you're holding on, like what, how do like it's really dark, it's really horrible. And that's just the accounts of our residential school. Can you imagine all the residential schools across Canada? So it's just like, put that
into the States too.
Yeah, into the States, Australia, New Zealand. Like, it's just like, it's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly though, Damien, like, I know it's such a dark part of history, and I think that's also a huge part of the reason why it's not talked about, because people like this, bubble. They want to live in a bubble. They want this filter. You don't want to hear about it, and I think it's important to talk about it. People need to know, because in knowing that, it gives people empathy and understanding. And then rather than, a divide of, well, those are those people and those are those people and the other people, you're more like, no, we as people together, we can help to heal in having empathy and understanding. Obviously, like, I'm from a European background. I don't know much about my own traditions. I don't know much about my ancestors. So I'm not quite sure how much trauma there is or anything like that. But when you were saying about how people are hurting and they don't know why, and then they turn to like alcohol or drugs, I think that it's important that people understand what happened and people understand that history, because then instead of looking at somebody being like, oh, a drunk or a drug addict, you're like, no, this is someone who's hurting and who needs to numb such a deep pain, a well of pain, oceans of sorrow that you can't even begin to understand. So I think it's an important subject, and whether it's dark or not, I appreciate you sharing that, because it's going to reach a lot of people, and it's good to start talking about it. I'm just going to quickly go back to my notes here because I know you had a few questions as well. Let's see here. Sorry for my pause here.
No, it's all good. No, it's good. It's tough questions to ask, but they need to be asked and they need to be answered and they need to be understood and, entirely. Because, like we can brush it under the rug, but I don't think the conversation's already been had. And now it's just like time to like kind of educate everybody and show them what's up. Like Canada talks about being this huge, friendly, positive, multicultural country, inviting everybody in and stuff like that. But like, what about our own people who are here before like all colonization happened? And like for me, like, and then I'm like grew up in two worlds, right? Like my background's cowboy, like my mom's of Irish descent too. So like I grew up like, I'm pretty white on the outside. Let's be honest, right? So it's just like, but I grew up with like on the native side. So like in like close to the reserve and stuff like that. Well, on the reserve actually, and like and just my childhood, it was like that. So it's like me, I'm always gonna be proud in First Nations, like entirely, right? And I know I have a job to do, but for me too, it was like about like bridging the gap, to kind of stop the hate from like both sides. And fortunately, I was fortunate enough to grow up in a setting where, just for example, our hockey team in Fraser Lake, we had the white boys and the native boys all going to battle on one team, and we'd go play other teams. And, so like we grew up in that setting where it was like bridging the gap. We were all friends with one another. I didn't really deal with racism until I went out east. I dealt with racism, but like I always had native teammates to like multiple native teammates, even in my times in Prince George hockey. But once I went out east in Saskatchewan, that's when I realized elements of racism are a little more, it's more dominant. And I was like, wow. So like this world, even though it's just two provinces away, there's like more hurt and more stereotypes that are just like kind of very consistent and stuff like that. And then, like I said, like I grew up in two worlds, so I am fair on the outside, right? So like people would be like, see a native person on the street and they would start like bashing native people. And I'd be like, hold up, what's up? Like I'm native. And they're like, oh, Ketsi, I never meant it like that. You're good. And I'm like, what do you mean I'm good? Like you're being so fake, and like this is like what? So this doesn't mean you're racist to me. It just means you're racist to that person because I am that person. So it's tough. Yeah.
Those labels and stigmas.
Yeah.
That would be a very uncomfortable situation to be in. But I think I would be like very uncomfortable as the person who just said something super ignorant.
Oh, it was awkward. Definitely awkward. And that's kind of when I went in a shell for like a year or so, and like wasn't like, I was proud to be Indigenous, but like I didn't want to shout it out to the world because like I had teammates who were like racist. And like it wasn't until my coach Curtis Hunt pulled me into the dressing room and he's like, Ketsi, I didn't know you're native. How come you haven't been sharing this? Well, I was like, well, these things are kind of going on. And he's like, wow. He's like, well, you know what? He's like, you may not realize it, but you are already, even though you're a teenage boy, you're already being a representation and role model for young Indigenous youth entirely. So it's like, you have a job to do. And he's like, you be proud of who you are. And I that second that happened, I thank Curtis Hunt entirely for just like me bringing back my identity and being proud of who I was, because I was getting kind of like in a shell, because I was like, am I not supposed to be proud of who I am? Because I was like, the single native dude on my team in that sense. That year, and that's when I walked out of the dressing room. I was like, okay, I have a job to do, and I'm going to be proud of who I am, and I'm going to say everybody, like, this is who I am, and to reflect on all other First Nations people to do the same. And from that point on, it helped me entirely. So I thank my coach for that, like for bringing me into the office that one time, because it made a huge difference in my life.
So, you had mentioned on Big Brother, I believe I remember you saying that the nations in the area were divided at one point in time. Do I remember that correctly? Yeah.
For sure. So like, we always had, there's a history of like, wherever you go, there's history of war wherever you go, right? It's kind of inevitable. So there's stories of Nadleh kind of defending our area from the I guess you could say the Chilcotin people used to come from down south, not totally down south, but in those areas, and they would used to try to come to Nadleh and try and kidnap our women and stuff like that. So we'd have to like fend them off. And so there's huge battleground areas on the outskirts of Nadleh, still on Nadleh land, but more towards the Sunset Beach area. Mm-hmm. So right before like kind of Highway 16 in between Nadleh, if you look on a map from an aerial view. So yeah, like we've done like lots of excavations and stuff like that and archaeology, and have found like back in the day used to go down there and you could just find arrowheads like every other day. Now everything's been picked out pretty clean, but there's still traditional areas like that. Also, like there's a division. There used to be an area on the other side of Nadleh in Ormond Lake where there was like a giant massacre where the same thing kind of happened. And so like there's a sacred area in Ormond Lake where there's a war broke out and our people got kind of slaughtered. So like there's like a sacred burial ground in Ormond Lake area too. So like there's always been a history of like war and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, that's just kind of, you look everywhere you go and you see lots of stories where even like, the Blackfoot people, like, and the Cree people, like, and just like everybody's kind of like, there's when you look at Indigenous tribes, they are sovereign in their own state. So before colonization, of course, these things would happen because, resources and, getting kidnapping women stuff. It's just like, I guess that's just like man entirely. So yeah, there's definitely a history of division and stuff like that. And, but yeah, that's history, I guess. Eh?
Yeah, no kidding. I can only imagine how it would feel going into some of those areas after like having that kind of history there.
Yeah, definitely. Like they're powerful areas too, like, right, the Ormond Lake area, obviously I said it was a sacred area, and then like the area in Sunset Beach, sometimes if you're walking there and hanging out there, well, your sixth sense kicks in, maybe I guess I could say. It's like, oh, this is like, I'm getting like an eerie feeling around here because like there's been some real stuff that has gone down here in the past. So it's pretty crazy to show like our people, have been resilient forever, I guess you could say, because, Nadleh's like a kind of the hub area of like, we have surrounding reserves in Stalaco and the Cosley and Sycas and stuff like that. We've always like been resilient in general because we've also fought off, neighboring tribes in the past and come out on top and stuff like that. So it's pretty crazy. The history is pretty deep, right? So, and then like we've, I think they found like we found artifacts that are like 1,000 years old. So you can just show like we don't even know some of the history. We have there's some paintings down a couple bays down from my parents' house. I'm not sure if you came out and seen those paintings the one time back in the day, but we don't even know how old those paintings are. So it's just like, and what kind of paint did they use? Because those things still exist. They're on the rocks and stuff, like the hieroglyphs they call them and stuff like that. So it's pretty crazy. Like the history is so deep, right?
Lots of history in the area.
Yeah, big time.
But I know this isn't on my footnotes, but I just always have I always have the questions. I asked Johnny about it like a while back.
I think I know what you're gonna ask, but let's see if I know what you're gonna ask.
Okay, it was not about Bigfoot.
Okay, I thought you're going down that road. I was like, oh, we're gonna talk about Bigfoot. No, I'm just kidding.
No, come on, let's go squatching.
Yeah.
No, but that is a very interesting history of the area as well. That's a different kind of show.
My cuckoo side. We'll do another show when we talk about the cuckoo side. We're going to talk about all that stuff.
Well, actually, I was going to ask, what's your favorite legend or story of the area? And you can err on the mystical, magical side. Like, I know there's always sort of, I don't want to call them fairy tales or whatever, but legends of sort of supernatural things
I don't
in
know.
the area.
I don't know if I have a favorite one, like, because they're all kind of freaky.
What about the fish people one?
Oh, that one's trippy.
Let's hear that
I
one.
wouldn't say if it's my favorite, but it's pretty crazy. Like, I guess back in the day, there's stories of our traditional hunters and fishers and stuff like that. So there's a fisherman going out, and back in the day, you didn't have a vehicle to make a bunch of noise and stuff. You'd actually have to go through the bush and be stealthy because, like, whatever you hunted was your next meal. You actually legit had to survive. So there's a story of a traditional hunter going out on the north shore of Fraser Lake, and when he's seen come to these rocks, but he was hiding in the bush, and you actually, like I said, back in the day, you'd have to sneak up on people and stuff like that. So there's a story of this person witnessing mermaids, I guess you could say, on the shores of the rock and stuff like that. So it's we got you look in Okinawa and you got tales of the Ogopogo and stuff. Mm-hmm. We have tales and of recently, like, of people seeing, like, our kind of Fraser Lake Ogopogo. So who knows what that person's seen entirely, but we do have tales of that in that sense, and like a type of mermaid and stuff like that too. So it's pretty crazy. Like, who knows, like, what exists on this earth entirely, like, from the ocean, from the lakes to the forest, like,
no kidding.
And people say, like, we've taken up all this natural resources, which, like, I know we do a lot of logging and forestry, and we have done that. But when you ever fly in the plane and look down in BC and look at all the bush, and you're like, and we're supposed to know everything about this earth. And it's like, go survive in that bush. You don't know what exists in that bush. Go dive into that lake, and what do you think exists there? We don't know. So it's just like, add that to the equation of these tales and such. And there you go. You got some pretty crazy deep stories. And I guess we could go on forever in this sense. But yeah, that's one of the stories from the past. And I know elders in Nadleh who tell of those stories too, so it's not like this just happened one time. So yeah, it's pretty far out there. Fortunately, I haven't experienced anything like that personally. I'd probably lose my marbles entirely, but it's just like, okay, I respect the water. And but there is so that's why Native people are, like, so traditional, like, in the water aspect. Water is such a sacred thing. And when we go out onto the water, we're supposed to, like, do like like I did a canoe kayak camp with the kids, and I brought our elder in, and he did an opening ceremony just to make sure we were safe on the water, because there's these stories from our past. So water is a very powerful thing. We have to respect the land, and then once the camp was done, 2 days later, we did a closing ceremony, and when we were done, we had to shout our name 3 times on the water to call back, like, our spirit, right, to be full again, because we go into this water and there's certain things that could happen that we don't know about. So it's just like, we don't know about these things. We don't know if they're for sure, but why not respect it in the process, because of whatever ancestors and people nowadays have also experienced. So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, the thing is, human beings' greatest mistake is to think we know everything.
Yeah.
I like to have I like to have an open mind to anything being possible, and I've also had a ton of experiences that have blown my mind open. And if I tried to tell people what I experienced, maybe they would be like, Shanti, you a crazy lady.
Yeah. So I agree. Sorry. Yeah. That's like, I when I tell these stories, like, like, okay, you don't have to take my story, like, totally, like, straight up, but I'm telling you the story, and you take what you want. Right. So, like, exactly. If you want it just for, like, the cool storytelling aspect of it, maybe it's more a fantasy for you, or maybe it is real and you've dived into this subject deeper. Just, don't kind of push the person away and label them as crazy or anything, because you don't know the history there. You don't know how deep the roots of this past have gone. So take stuff with a grain of salt. Say yes, say no, or just keep an open mind and enjoy the story, right?
Exactly.
You don't have to be a total prick about it.
Yeah, I know, I love these kinds of stories. I find them fascinating, and also just because, like I said, from my own experiences, and Yeah, I've actually heard that in Haida Gwaii they've got areas. My girlfriend was telling me about this. They've got areas where people keep like a lookout, like they've got like their posts where they keep a lookout that there's certain areas of the forest people aren't allowed to go in, and because it's just known that there's that area is sacred, and it's because there's other beings and stuff in that area. And I love stories and history like that.
That's really neat. Yeah, and they're so lucky in Haida Gwaii to be like, you know, have all that. They've kept a lot of their traditions alive. And a buddy of mine, Patrick Shannon, who actually he directed the Good Time Tea video. That's where he's from. So like I've got to learn firsthand how like together they still are, and like how traditional they still are and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. I want to go check out Haida Gwaii, and I won't go to these sacred areas or these places I don't want to go, but we have the same areas in Nadleh, past Ormond Lake and stuff like that. You know, there's tales of like, you know, like Bigfoot, and maybe you shouldn't go in this area, or if you do, you should probably not go alone or stuff like that. Or people have gone out and pick berries in these certain areas, and some weird things have happened to them. But you know, so it's pretty crazy. It's like, okay, do all these people have these same stories? Are we all just like BSing around, or is there some kind of connection here? Even though, because
they're all across the world too.
Exactly, right. So it's like we can't all be crazy.
No, there's similarities with different stories across the globe. Like you said, Bigfoot. Mm-hmm. There's stories like all over the world of, you know, similar kind of beings and stuff. So I like to keep an open mind to it, and I also I prefer to believe in those kinds of things, or believe that there's a possibility that those things do exist, because I actually prefer to live in a magical world.
Yeah, right?
It's more fun.
It is fun. It keeps your mind open, and you're open to new things. You don't close off and create boundaries for yourselves, which is something that we kind of typically do in this day and age.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say I went to Haida Gwaii like over 10 years ago now, and it's absolutely beautiful. There's this one, I have a friend that's from there, and there's like a little well, and they say, like, it was in the dark, and my friend's like, oh, you got to have a drink from this water. It's the best water around. And I'm like, oh, okay, sure, why not? So I take a drink, and then he flashes his light on the little sign. It says, if you drink from this well, you will at some point in your life come back to Haida Gwaii. Like you will end up coming back. And it's funny because I remember just it was almost like the flora and fauna, and just everything was different. Like it had a very different from like what you're used to seeing in BC. Like all of the trees were different. Like everything was, it was just beautiful. And I've actually always thought of that well and been like, okay, it's true. I will be going back. I want to go back. Now it's been so many years. I'm like,
you're due?
Like, yeah, I'm due. I'm ready to go. So, you were actually mentioning your music video and your friend that filmed that. So, did you start writing that album before you went on Big Brother?
Heart of Mine was okay. I guess Sweet Escape was done minus Johnny's part. He kind of wrote that when we got back on Sweet Escape. Good Time Tea was already written. Well, I guess it was already released. Good Time Tea and Who You Know were already released, but those songs were written in 2016, I think. I don't know. Like these songs have I've been writing music for years and years, ever since I picked up a guitar. Since I was 18 years old, I started writing music. Heart of Mine was written in January of 2018. Out Here Rolling was written after Big Brother. And am I missing any songs? Oh, no, that's it. That's the 5. Yeah. So, yeah, they've all been, they're recent and before Big Brother. So, yeah.
Well, you've got a fan question here that wants to know when your next album is going to be. When will Kedah Clan be putting out new music?
Okay, yeah. Well, if you haven't checked out the recently dropped Indian Summer EP, which was released in November, check it out already. So there's a couple new jams on there. And as for new music, well, we're already Actually, when we're done this podcast, I'm actually doing renovations on the vocal booth, which is to my left here. So,
Nice.
so once that's done, we're going to be recording new music. We've already been in the process of pre-production. We have a huge number of songs like ready to go. So it's just like, let's pick and choose and go from there. It's so fun because like we got so many personalities in our group. You know, we got 4 different vocalists, so there's no shortage of creativity. Let's just say. So hopefully sooner than later. And I don't know if an album will be dropped soon, because you know our recording process is so intricate. It's so funny. We get in the studio and like, for example, Sweet Escape. I was like, oh, this is gonna be easy. You know, like we'll just, you know, it's one little strum pattern with the beat, couple verses here and there. And then all of a sudden me and Johnny get into the studio and we start layering it with lead guitar and piano and stuff like that and all that. And then all of a sudden there's just this huge production. And like, so it's just like, okay, essentially, it'd be nice to have the song done in a week, but we figured out that is not possible with our creativity, our process. So if we don't release an album soon, we will be releasing some singles soon, just to throw them out there and keep people happy, you know, because, you know, we have a lot of songs ready to go.
Awesome. Okay, sweet.
So no answer, but soon, within the year.
Well, I was going to say, what's that like, spending so much time with your bro in the studio? Is that awesome? Like you've got a big family and you guys all seem to get along quite well.
Oh, it's hilarious actually. Like, you know, I just,
how do you do it?
Lots of patience. Okay. No, everyone's really good, and we've really tested ourselves with the new EP, like on the recording process. It has gotten faster. It's like, and now we delegate our areas. Okay, you're on this verse, you know, practice your verse, come into the studio ready to lay these tracks down. Funny story about like, it's crazy. Like we just kind of roll with the punches. It's a lot of hard work. Out Here Rolling's a funny story. Like Tamara's part on Out Here Rollin', it was just like, it was just singing before, because we're like, Johnny had this awesome riff. Out Here Rollin' has been sitting for like a couple of years now, just the riff. But we knew it was a good riff because it was like that driving kind of like country rock riff. But we didn't want to just like write anything on it. So we waited for like the creativity to kind of spark with it. And then Johnny came up with that good hook. Then like I wrote my verse, Johnny wrote his verse, Debo wrote his verse, and Tamara had the singing part. So me and Debo are tracking on Out Here Rollin'. It's like 4 a.m. They're like, Debo, okay, good job. Like right here where I am. Like, good job. Let's call it a night. I think your tracks are done. And then we take like a 2-minute break, and I'm like, I come back downstairs and Debo's ready to go to bed. I was like, Debo, get up. Tamara's part's not good enough. We got to write her a verse right now, because this needs to be done because this is a good song, right? So like me and Debo were up at 4 a.m, basically write this verse for Tamara, which is her verse now, and exchange some ideas with the group, Johnny and Tamara, the next day as well. So the process is crazy. Everyone just kind of does their part when asked upon. And in the studio with my brother is always a good time because like he's just so naturally talented. Like Heart of Mine solo, like I was just like, okay, I don't know, just do a solo here, and Johnny did that solo in one take, you know. And at first I was like, okay, that's a good idea. Let's come back to that and then like kind of do that better next time. And then I let it sit for like, I checked it out a week later and I listened to it multiple times, and I was just like, actually, I think it's good. We'll just keep it. I wish they all could be like that, but you know, it's fun. It's just hanging out with a bunch of different me's because we're all a bunch of Ketlos, and you know, it's a good time.
Jamming,
yeah,
making music,
doing what we
you guys
love,
do
right?
best.
Yeah.
Well, actually, that's one thing I wanted to come to because we're talking about family.
Yeah.
By the way, how are your parents?
They're awesome. Yeah. I'm gonna go see them this probably tomorrow, and go check in at the house because you know I finally have my own house and stuff like that since moving home. Now again, no, my parents are awesome. They're always just staying busy. They're just like they're in their 60s now, so they're getting cute and stuff. They're just good people, you know. It's crazy. It's crazy to see. It feels like, you know, I was just a kid, like seeing my parents, like, you know, growing up and stuff like that. So it's crazy just seeing like how this world works. And, I love my mom and dad so much, and they're just like the two best humans ever. So,
Hi, John and Sue.
Yeah. Mom and dad. Hey, mom or dad. I feel like I'm on Big Brother. Hey, mom.
Yeah. What, if you can remember some specific moments, what are the most valuable lessons that your parents taught you growing up?
Just to be good people, be generous people, be good-hearted people with big hearts, and work hard. Like, I think my parents taught me how to be a hard worker, but also be a good person at the same time, and always make time for family. And I think that also just comes from my parents, both their upbringings as well. Like, both come from big families. My mom comes from a hardworking farm family, and my dad comes from like a hardworking native family. Like, my grandpa Johnny always, he basically like would always have an open door to anybody on the reserve. And it just kind of like trickled down to my family, and and then now here we are, all us other siblings, and so it's just pretty good. Like, they gave me so much, and they continue to do that, and that's something I got to be careful with, because like my parents will never say no. So it's just like, okay, I gotta let them enjoy they're in their 60s. I gotta let them enjoy their lives together and stuff, but still check in, and still be a good son all the time too.
For sure. Yeah, they've got a revolving door, people in and out all the time.
Yeah, right.
So how did you meet your girl? Emma? Is it M or Emma? What does she prefer?
It's both. Whatever's comfortable. Yeah, we met at Sonar in Prince George.
What's Sonar?
You know the Ruins board shop from Prince George?
Which?
Ruins, the old Ruins skateboard shop. It's
No.
like, yeah, well, that's called Sonar now. So that's where we met. And, it was pretty funny. Like, we had a fun night. We danced, and we were little goofballs, and we went on our way after that. And I got her number or whatever, and we chatted like the next day, and so on and so on. I had to put my time in, and then I think it was like 3-4 months later, we finally went on our official date on like a real date, not like our first like time we went out, and she brought a friend. I was like, what? Are you kidding me? She was testing me, making sure I wasn't a weirdo. So hats off.
Good for her.
Yeah, right?
Smart girl.
No, I appreciated that too, right? In hindsight. And then we went on that's why I call her our first real date, was on New Year's in 2017, what the hell? 2017, 2018, and the rest is history, right? So yeah, we've been together ever since that New Year's date.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, you've got a fan that wants to know what season you guys are gonna get married in. Have you guys thought that far?
Probably fall or spring. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be 2021, fall or spring area. And yeah, so if that works out, that's when it will be. We're probably gonna get married in Lillooet, her hometown, and so if all the venues are available and that's how it works out, then that's when we will get married. But also at the same time, we're enjoying engaged life, and making sure, like, we're being smart in our decision, making sure everything's the same, which it is. It's awesome. But the world always tries to fit like the normal norm, so it's just like, let's just enjoy engaged life, honey, and we'll get married, which we're gonna be married before you know it. So we kind of just started thinking about that. We started on our guest list, or started chomping at the bit with our guest list, and we're like, holy, it's gonna be a party.
No kidding. I can only imagine.
Yeah, no doubt.
So somebody wants to know, would you guys do the Amazing Race?
Sorry, I'm just fixing my mic. It's a little low.
No worries.
There we go. And would Em and I do the Amazing Race? Why not? Right? We're not. I'm not a no guy, and I think it would be hilarious. People would see pretty real aspects of our relationship on the Amazing Race, but I think we'd be up for the challenge for sure.
So that's actually something I was going to ask you. Relationship advice. How do you make it work? What's your, like, if you can home in on something, what would you say is the most important thing about making a relationship work?
real love, I don't know, like we just love each other naturally. But I think what makes a real relationship work for us in a sense is just like a fair relationship, not one person is always right. And, it doesn't have to be a one-way street. It has to be a two-way street. And say we both have to be forgiving, like, and open to our minds if like something's not going right. You can't just be stubborn and thick-headed, thick-skulled. You got to move on, reflect, and be aware of their feelings as well as yours. And the thing with Em and I is like, like we always, even if there's like a disagreement, 10 minutes later we'll be like, okay, we're good, because like we'll kind of reflect. And it kind of goes in like just my sense of like, how we were talking about earlier, like not reacting on emotions and stuff, and kind of sitting there and taking it, and just reflecting on that and coming back later. And then no matter if it's Damien versus Emma or Emma versus Damien, we always come back later and like figure it out, right? So it's just being on a team, and we're just being on the same page. So I would just say, for me, I don't be afraid to be wrong. You don't always have to be right, and also be forgiving on both sides. And if it's like the relationship advice too, our relationship, I've been in past relationships and they haven't been easy. This relationship is easy because like we're just both on the same page and we're best friends. So that also helps, so you could give all the relationship advice you want, but if it's not natural, then it's like, if you're trying to force something, then it's maybe you're not in the right relationship kind of thing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So compatibility and humility.
Yeah. There you go. Thank you. 2 words.
Yeah, that's important. Well, I think when somebody is, it's something I like to ask a lot of people, because I find it interesting, like what people value and what makes things work, and their own journey of, evolution, and then also, relationship, because like I've said before, being in a relationship is a whole spiritual journey of itself.
Well, it's hard work, right? And like, it's not all going to be easy. It's not like there's a honeymoon phase of a relationship, and it's not going to all be rainbows and butterflies after that. But if you're in it for the long run, then you are, and that's where we're at entirely. And I guess you could like, the start of our relationship is when like Sweet Escape was like written. So it's like kind of funny, like that verse of mine, and like the chorus is kind of just like paints like the whole history of that. It was pretty funny. It was a good fresh beginning when, yeah. All that
Are you
happened.
referring to the lyric, "Oh, I've made mistakes, I've had my share of pain"? Is that the one you're referring to?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I guess like the lyrics would like be like Sweet Escape, like oh, I've made mistakes. Like in past relationships, I haven't been the most perfect person. And I've also had my share of pain from the other side of relationships, like where, the person wasn't maybe healthy for me. But at the end of the day, like, learning from that, not holding on to bitter tastes and stuff like that, and just like finding your sweet escape, who for me is M at the end of the day. And it just kind of made me, when I met M, like that song was so easy to write. It was just like, okay, everything's coming full circle. It's like I've finally like grown enough to be like a good man, and to not like hold on to like negativity of like past relationships, and just like start off fresh. And that's ideally what that song is doing. It's being like, it's forgiving your like yourself and other people, and just like letting go of that, and just being open to new relationships and giving them a chance, and not sabotaging them or being negative to them right off from the start. So yeah, that song's really that my verse is like, I've been right and I've been wrong, but like, who's counting, right? It's time to move on and enjoy what's coming into your life right now in front of your eyes. So, and here we go.
Oh, so like learning from your past and moving forward, and being conscious of not projecting your past onto the new person.
Exactly, right? And it was just so refreshing meeting Em and being like, oh my God, I can love again. And this is like so cool, because like, there's good women all around this world. So and for vice versa, for women and men, or whatever floats your boat, kind of whatever kind of love you need to find in this world, there is hope for it out there. And I kind of lost track of that because of past relationships. and just like fast forwarding today, that's the road I had to go down to get where I needed to be now. I had to go through a little bit of, pain, and, I had to admit my mistakes and stuff like that. And yeah, it's just crazy. Everything relates to the Lion King and Circle of Life. And here we are now.
Growing pains.
Yeah, right. And it's like, why is that? Why can I not meet somebody? And then I was like, well, because you weren't meant to meet anybody until this point, and now look at what's happening, right? So you paid your dues, man. You paid your dues.
Yeah. Then you're like, oh, I know the meaning of all the love songs now.
Yeah. Oh my God, I can write love songs again.
By the way, did you see the new Lion King movie?
No, I haven't, but I guess I'm due for that too, right?
Oh,
I'm guessing you have.
good.
Yeah, it's like too real.
Yeah.
Wow, there's these.
No, it's good. It's really good, actually.
Yeah.
I was impressed because usually when they remake, because they remade Aladdin, and it was.
You weren't a fan?
It was good, but there was a few parts where I was like, this is not the original. Like, don't screw with my Disney movies. But The Lion King was really, really good.
Yeah.
So
cool. I'll check it out. I'm always a fan of Disney movies. That's where we grew up on. So
yeah, for sure.
What we grew up on.
So to come back to a couple of things, let's talk a little bit about your hockey career, because you said that you're retired. Like, why did you retire? Like, did you choose to retire? Like, what was that?
Well, I could have kept playing, but it was just all coming to like, okay, I've been away for 11 years now, moved away at the age of 15 kind of thing. It's time to come home. Also, at the same time, like, I've had so many concussions, like in injuries from my head down. Like, it's just like pretty crazy. So it's just like, okay, I can't tell the difference between a headache and a concussion, and like, it's not making me a lot of money. It's not gonna, like, I'm not like in the NHL. It's not like I'm getting like big bucks from this anymore. So it's just like it's time to call her a day and keep my brain, because I plan on living a long life, and I need this for starters for the rest of it too. And
there's a lot of side effects to concussions.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, right. And now they're like starting to do more research into it, and like actually realizing that, just because you can't see a concussion doesn't mean it doesn't exist, right? And that was the toughest thing for me. I was out of the lineup one year for a month and a half because of a concussion, and like it was so brutal. Like, and it was frustrating because like it feels like you're wearing like a hat really tight all the time, and then you just got a headache, and the lights hurt, and I, like, fortunately, like, I probably haven't experienced concussions as bad as some other people, but I have, like, in a sense. But like, I know other people who have had it worse, like fighters in hockey, me, a goalie, getting hit in the head all the time, football players, like, the list goes on. So just like, I guess I could have kept pushing it, but I've always been playing through injuries, like, basically my whole career. And then the last 3-4 years of hockey, I've been writing songs forever, and like, we're not getting any younger, so it's just like, I want to go home and I want to make music entirely. Like, I want to create my own band, and the time is now. So it's like, I got to put this dream behind and start another one. So it was also that kind of helped my transition as well.
Right. And you left at 15. Like, that was when you were drafted into the WHL?
Yeah, so I left then, got drafted to the Regina Pats. Then I decided to leave at 15 to go try out for the Caribou Cougars in the Major Midget Hockey League. Made that team. We did really good, and then from then on, I moved. So fortunately, I just moved an hour and a half away to Prince George, but I was still living not at home, right? And I was still gone 8 months out of the year.
Still pretty young to be like leaving home too.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so it definitely like helped me grow fast. Like, I had to mature quick. Because even though we lived with billets and stuff like that, so we were taken care of in that sense. But and then 16 years old, played for the Prince George Spruce Kings, and then 17 years old, I was out 2 provinces away in Regina for 3 years. Lethbridge, my 20-year-old year for the Hurricanes, and then Colorado Eagles for that stint, and then 5 years in university, and then the year in Sydney, Australia for my last year. So,
right.
Yeah.
So, what was your favorite place to live?
I think you kind of already know that question, eh? Australia.
The land down
Yeah.
under.
Oh my God, Sydney. Like living in Sydney, it was so cool. And like they put us on $1 million home on the beach, living with
What?
like 4 Canadian dudes in one house. It was just ridiculous. There was never a dull moment. And you go to the, you go to the hockey game and you're like the palm trees and the sun's shining. And you're like, do I really want to play hockey right now? We'd be like, let's get this game over with and we're going to go to the beach after. And I was kidding.
Right on.
Yeah. No, it was awesome. It was so cool. And I got to see the world. It was pretty sweet. Yeah. The beach life is nice. Beach life is nice. But even though beach life is super nice, home is always home. Even though it's snowing crazy right now, home is still home.
Yeah. Did you get homesick? Like, because I mean, you said 11 years you were, you'd come home and visit and stuff like that. You'd see, but I mean, I imagine there'd be a certain amount of missing home.
Yeah, I think by the end of it too, like, it's like, okay, you tried, you played a little bit of pro here and there. I think it's time to move home. I see pictures of my nieces growing bigger every year, every month, every week for that matter. So it's just like, okay, you're an uncle, you're going to miss out on, their childhood. So it's time to move home so you don't miss out on everything. My parents are getting older. It's time to move home too. The music thing, making music, hanging out with my brother and my sisters and, all my cousins, my people from Nadleh and stuff like that. So it all just kind of came full circle and it made my decision easy. And the transition was easier than I thought. People always ask me, do you miss playing like pro hockey and stuff? It's like, yeah, I do, but I got a lot of memories out there that'll carry me for a lifetime. And it also got me to, like, it helped me be the person who I am today as well. So,
Right.
I still miss it, but it's like I don't miss the battling through the injuries and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you probably still, like, once you made your decision, you probably felt confident about what you had decided.
Yeah, and then people always like kind of ask me, "Are you going to go back to playing?" I was just like, I had a good run. I was lucky enough. Lots of kids don't even finish their junior career, and I got to play past junior, so I was thankful for that.
Yeah, and you have a goaltending camp now as well?
Yep, I have a little goaltending company called Ketlo Goaltending. I think our next camp is, I don't have one till February 29th. But yeah, it's like I've had a couple here in 2019. But, it's tough though, because like I have that and I do those when they come. And I do lots of, I have some sporadic individual sessions like from now until then. But I'm doing like the Kedah Clan and like the motivational speaking, my job at the Rec Center, Ketlo goaltending. So I'm just trying to do it all. And so yeah, I do have that, and it's fun. It's good to teach kids how to play goalie, who are like kind of like up in the northern interior of British Columbia. Because when I was playing goalie, I'd have to go training for like, I'd have to go to Calgary to train and drive 10 hours, and fortunately I had the support from my parents to do that. Yeah, but some kids don't get that. So if I can like help a kid who lives in kind of like where we live in the middle of nowhere and teach him how to play, teach him or her, because I have both students, how to play goalie, then that's even better, because like, they get the tools to play goalie, and something that I necessarily didn't get.
Right. And sorry, you said Nadleh's culture camp for kids?
Oh no,
I
didn't. No, I was just talking about teaching kids in general.
Okay.
How to speak. But I do that. That's like the rec center stuff. Like, not the rec center, recreation coordinator job I have with Nadleh as well, right? So. Right.
Okay. And so, actually, what with the culture camp for kids? Like, what is that? The
culture camp for kids, it's just a thing we do on the yearly. It's a week-long camp for youth in Nadleh. There's an old camp in Ormond Lake just past Nadleh, which is part of Nadleh. So for the week, kids go and we do culture camp. We do fishing and hunting and stuff. And I think I did like a little bit of archery with them and lots of storytelling. And it's just like a camp. You get to camp out in the bush. There's some cabins and stuff. And just kids get to go swimming and whatever a camp looks like, that's what we kind of do, right? And it's just in our own traditional grounds in the Ormond Lake area. Among that, I do like multiple things. Like my recreation job is like, we run a fitness center in Nadleh, but we also do like community events. We got a baby welcoming ceremony coming up. We got our winter wellness days coming up. So it's just like whatever type of season it is, we got to do. For one of those other things is the kids culture camp during the summertime. So it's just add it to the equation of like what the job is like between the fitness center and between the community events. So yeah,
keeping yourself super busy.
Yeah, I enjoyed the holiday. I enjoyed the break because it was like, it was a pretty crazy year.
To slow down, reflect a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you started the gym and recreation center, didn't you? Like I was seeing on your Instagram, were you like renovating it as well? Like
yeah, I renovated it. So it was Nadleh was fortunate enough to get a new band office and health center building and like a new hall and gym and stuff. But they didn't get they were supposed to be a fitness center into that budget, but they didn't get it done because it was too expensive, which actually kind of worked out in hindsight. The old health center was just sitting there for a couple of years unused, like just an empty big building. And I just started my job out with Nadleh as the recreation coordinator and seen this empty building across the street. And I was like, is anybody doing anything with that building? They're like, nope. I was like, okay, well, I got an idea. It's knocked down all the walls in there. Got rid of all the doctory offices and just opened the whole building entirely. Kind of finished all the walls and stuff and like that in there, and put some fit flooring down and put a bunch of weight equipment in there, and now we got a fully functioning gym, and we got a sauna in there, and new kitchen and freezer, new stove, and like a little lounge area with a couple couches and massage chair and TV and Wi-Fi.
Gotta have Wi-Fi.
Gotta have Wi-Fi. Yeah.
Do you want to plug a little bit about your programs and educations while we're talking about that that you run there?
Oh yeah, so like I'm starting like a 8-week little fitness camp in February and stuff like that so it'll be available to like all community members, but most I'm going to do it at lunchtime so the Nadleh staff can come, because lots of time Nadleh staff are ignored because because they're always working, so their lunchtime is free. I'm going to start doing some little fitness programs there. We're getting the rink ready, so we're getting that ready for winter wellness days, which will be basically do like whatever your winter wellness activities are, including like snowshoeing, some hockey, some snowman building, having a fire and stuff like that. So that's like our community events. But then the gym's always open for just people who want to come out and work out and get trained, and just providing like mental healthy outlets and physical healthy outlets entirely. So it's really cool that Nadleh's supporting a job like mine in recreation and just like kind of being like open to like what it is. So it's really cool. Like how many reserves have a fully functioning fitness center, and like our fitness center is pretty good. I got a grant that was worth $30,000, so I got to spend 15 of that on weight equipment, and we already had some weight equipment, so we got all new, like we got a cage, like a Smith machine, like a dip bar, like treadmills,
Nice.
3 bikes, a sauna, all the weights you need, like and the list goes on. So it's really cool. Like we have these tools that we can use, and it's for free, so just show up.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's seriously awesome. And now you have no excuse to become out of shape.
Yeah, right. So it's like, it's crazy. It's awesome. It's so cool. I was so lucky to play on so many hockey teams and like see all the good weight equipment that we got to use throughout the years. So like when I got that grant, I was like, okay, we're not beating cheap. We're going to buy the like expensive gear and buy it once. We don't want it to fall apart. We want it to last forever, right? So it's really cool.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're so lucky. Yeah, so I was like, okay, I'm just going to take all these ideas for all these gyms I've worked out in my life and kind of try to squeeze that into our little fitness center.
How big is it?
It's about, I guess you could say it's like 2 trailers. It's 3 trailers in one, you could say. Yeah, but It's all opened up. So like on the one side is like the 2 trailers in the gym, because it is when I was doing the renovations, the guy who's come and help me, he was like, yeah, it's actually 3 trailers in one. They're all just like kind of built together and make it look like a huge building, right? So the gym side's 2 trailers, and then there's a room in the back with the bike room and stuff like that, which I also want to do more renovations. I want to get like a little yoga room and MMA room in there. Could probably, if I get some more funding and stuff like that. And then the kitchen area is like 1 trailer area that's hooked on with like the lounge area and stuff like that. So it's really cool. And then I got my little office in there too and stuff. And then
Right on.
the rink's next door, and I want to bring back the rink entirely. Right now we just got the ice right there, and I got some nets on order. And then hopefully bring back maybe get a calisthenics park for outside too eventually. So there's some dreams going on there. So
Was that Johnny's idea?
yeah, for sure. No, that's everybody's idea. Well, but Johnny's definitely behind that one. You know, he's very supportive of that idea.
So I know you were mentioning that you do some motivational speaking. You spoke at the RCMP Youth Leadership Workshop. And sorry, where was that in Saskatchewan?
Yeah, that was in Regina at the depot. I've done a couple talks in Saskatchewan, one in Saskatoon, one in Regina, a couple times in Saskatoon.
Because there was a Peter Ballantyne Child and Family Services one. That was a different one?
Yeah, that was there was a couple there in Saskatoon with the same company, the Peter Ballantyne Child and Family Services. But yeah, it was cool. I stayed at the depot where they train RCMP officers and everything. So I did one of my talks there. So that was really cool. And it had they had a bunch of it's a program where they bring a bunch of Aboriginal kids in and from throughout Canada, and they just like hopefully they recruit some people for tribal police or whatnot, or whatever avenue they want to go to, even if it's just like in the RCMP area. But yeah, it was cool. So I got to do a talk there, and it was cool to see that First Nations kids and youth are like exploring their avenues, and that's one of the avenues they can explore. So it was pretty cool to be a part of that.
Wait, and sorry, you said tribal police?
Yeah, so like just like, I think I don't know of many of tribal police areas, but I know Lillooet has tribal police. So just like, Indigenous police, I guess you could say. So it's pretty cool, You only see that on TV, but now I know where it exists for real, and Lillooet's one of those places.
Fair enough. And so what did you focus on? Like, what were you teaching? Like, what were the lessons?
Basically kind of just my life in general is always just like, like reaching for your dreams. And I just wanted to show kids that, no matter what your dream is, like, you got to put your time in. And if it doesn't work out, maybe don't give up and throw in the towel, reassess the situation. Because sometimes your dreams don't happen overnight. They take 5 to 10 years to happen. And like one of the examples I use is like, my dream of hockey was coming to an end, but at the same time I was exploring other avenues of learning how to produce and engineer and record music through it. And like that took me like 5 years to learn how to do that properly, right? Because I was just chomping at the bit. And then by the time I learned how to do it properly, which is Kedah Clan and stuff like that, it was time to do that. So like, and just like showing people, and then I talk about like, the racism our people have dealt with. I educate people on like the history of Canada in my talks and everything, and kind of just like bring that whole universal view into my talks, and just show kids, like I said before, if I can do it, you can do it. So why not try, right?
Mm-hmm. So can you actually, I was going to say, I really like what you said about things taking, a good chunk of time, 5-10 years sometimes before you see something. I had this conversation with my last guest, and we were just talking because he's a percussionist and a musician and producer, and he was saying like sometimes just one track will take him a month to create because it's so intricate, and a career like something like that can take you 10 years before you want to be where you are. And this whole idea of things happening overnight, because I think we're kind of getting into the sort of instant gratification kind of thing. We have an unrealistic expectation about how long things take. So being able to teach people, especially millennials. I don't think we're millennials. I think we're just outside of that range, Damien. But
we are considered millennials, but I know what you're saying. I'm on your side. I like that. I like that way of thinking. Well, yeah, like everything's like it's like fantasy nowadays. Like people think, okay, look at this star. They did one song and now they're famous and blah, 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 blah. Here's your little fairy tale story. Well, guess what? It doesn't work like that.
It's like not everyone gets famous off of like, a YouTube fart video.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And it's just like you got to put your time in, man. You got to pay your dues. It's that, like people don't realize, they just see the surface of like stuff like For Good Time Chi, like that song took a long time to finish. It like it was written in 2016. It took like it, and then it was recorded in 2018, and it, you know, and then it didn't even get the time of day until I went on Big Brother, and you know, it's just like you gotta things don't happen overnight. What else could I say? Like I've been playing drums since I was 11. I didn't play in the Omega Crown band with my brother Johnny till I was like 21. So like there's like 10 years, right? Right. Played guitar when I was 18. Didn't start recording on an album till 2018, right? So that's like 9 between the 5 and 10 year mark and stuff. So like look at hockey too. Like I played forever and ever and ever. It's just like same thing, different story. Things take time.
I know. Sorry, you know, I was reading also that you were saying that you feel that Saskatchewan has given you a lot. And I know I was reading one of your posts, and you know, you were talking about I think it was in the same post actually, when you were talking about your about the talk that you gave at the RCMP Youth Leadership Workshop. You were saying that Saskatchewan has given you a lot of support across like Big Brother, as well as through your hockey career. And I believe towards the end of it, you said, and I quote, "Never say no to an opportunity. Always put yourself out there. Do not look back 10 years from now and say, shoulda, woulda, coulda. The time is now." And, you know, I wanted to know how you developed this kind of outlook on life, and where and what you can contribute that to, because that is a super, super important message to give people.
Yeah. I guess I can attribute that to my whole life, but it never really necessarily came real until I was like 21, when I saw the other side of it, right? Because I was always just like, okay, I'm going, the path is forward. I moved away from home, played hockey, doing all these things. And then I had my pro stint in Colorado, and then that year was over. And then I played a year at university after, because I went to play university after the NHL lockout happened, so all the players got sent down that year. So I was like, okay, I'm going to take the safe route and go play university for a year. I can just pick up pro and go play at any time, like, you know. After my first year of university, I decided university wasn't for me. Called my agent. I was like, can I go play a little bit of pro again? And he's like, no, your stats aren't good. Like, you're not going to get on a team. And that's where it came in full effect. I finally got to see the other side of that, right? So it was just like shoulda, woulda, coulda. I had a lot of couple years there where I was like, damn, I missed my chance at pro. Like, it's over. I'm just going to ride out this university career. And it hurt me because, like, you know, I was not only playing for myself in my dream for my hockey career to play in the NHL, but I was also playing for my people. And it hurt to, like, I felt like I let them down, right? So, like, that's why I say shoulda, woulda, coulda. Like, don't do that, because that's how I felt about that. But hindsight's 2020. I kept my foot on the gas pedal. I, you know, reflected, looked back, and changed my degree to Native American Studies, and got a little pro stint in Sydney again for like the rest of the year. And that's why I say don't say no to opportunities, because before you know it, they could be gone like that. And my pro opportunity was gone for like 5 years, right? And then I was fortunate enough to have one more stint in Sydney. And then, like, you know, all these things have happened. Like I got the chance at Big Brother. I didn't say no. Like, it's just like, put yourself out there, because before you know it could be gone like that. And then you'll be looking back and being like, gee, I should have done this. I should have done that. Well, you should have done it when you had the chance. So I've got to see both sides of that.
Yeah. I would say having regret and looking back on all the things that you wish you could have done. Yeah. That's always been a bit of a fear of mine, where, you know, for me, it's been traveling, and, you know, people are like, oh my God, you're going to India by yourself. Are you crazy? And I'm like, you know, if you let fear stop you from doing things, yeah, there's all these things that could happen, maybe happen, but, you know, and sure, there's risks involved in anything you do. But the thing is that, can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you know, there's risks involved in anything that you do, but you miss out on all of the really amazing and wonderful opportunities as well, if you get stunted by the fear of all of the what ifs. And you know what? All those what ifs usually don't happen. It's, you know, it's when you push past that comfort zone, that's when you really start to see things happen and to grow. And it also gives you more confidence too, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like everything comes full circle. And if you don't put yourself out there, you would have just been like looking back and be like, oh man. So it's just like, do it. Cause like, opportunities are few and far between. And you put 5 to 10 years into this like dream of yours. And then when the chance comes, you don't take it. Like, what have you done? Why have you put your time in there?
Right.
And people, I notice people always, they get worried. They get close to their dream and they self-sabotage too, right? So there's always like that aspect too. So it's like when your chance comes, like right there, don't get scared, because that's when like the final step you got to take.
Yes, that's where the self-awareness practice comes in, which is a skill in itself. Am I doing that really crappy thing again? Yeah. So I know that obviously with your public speaking, you're advocating for growth and change for Indigenous people. By the way, is it preferred First Nations or Indigenous people? I wanted to ask, like, what's the...
I do both. Like in 2020, I guess they're starting to go with Indigenous a little more. But when you look at, you look at both of it, and like Indigenous is Indigenous to what region you're from.
Right.
And same thing with First Nations. It says the word Indigenous in the definition. So like, to me, they both work for me. They're both respectful in the manner towards like, First Nations and Indigenous people. So I like both. I go between both.
Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure it was being politically correct.
Yeah. Something you got to do nowadays, right? It's hilarious.
Oh yeah, I know. I was like, if I got to like make sure I'm politically correct, or I'm going to end up with like a bunch of comments here. Actually, that was something I was going to ask you, to come back to the Big Brother question. Did you have any, like, I would assume you had mostly positive feedback. Did you have any sort of like haters or anything like that you dealt with comments and BS?
No, not really. The only thing I've seen that was negative was like, he's not even native. I'm just like, oh yeah, I am. Just because I'm a half breed doesn't mean I never grew up in the reserve in that context and upbringing. Right. I am, I take my First Nations descent with pride, and I'm proud of who I am. So that was the only negative thing. But I've already dealt with that anyways. So it wasn't a big deal. Everything was mostly positive. Like, my fans had my back entirely. It was awesome. Like, anything that was negative, my fans would always just go back. I look at the comments on like Twitter or like anything like that and stuff, and people always would just be like, they would defend me. So I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to go to battle for myself. People had my back because they liked my demeanor in the class and the representation that I did on the show entirely. So I didn't have any really backlash. So it was pretty cool. It was relieving.
Well, yeah, well, that's what I was going to say, because with anything, when you put yourself out there, there's always that sort of, fear that people are going to have something negative to say. But, like they say, haters going to hate. And, the reality is that when you put yourself out there, if people are hating, it's, usually because they don't have the balls to do, or ovaries to do what you're doing.
Exactly. And what are we going to do? Make everybody in this world happy? That's impossible. So like, so if you're coming out on the 50% positive side of that equation, then, I'll do it. Like, and if haters are going to hate, let them hate. They got their own issues, right?
Yeah.
So everyone's tough behind a keyboard and a screen.
Oh, yeah. Yes, they slither in the World Wide Web and can hide behind their screen. Yeah. So a question one of your fans had was, would you ever consider becoming a motivational speaker that does tours for reservations across Canada, like to do like a tour?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely open to that. Right now I'm still like chomping at a bit and trying to make all my, crabs in the bucket work. But I have done sporadic motivational talks here and there. The next one I'm doing is in Williams Lake, February 21st or 22nd. But yeah, I'm definitely open to do a tour when I have more time for that and stuff like that. But yeah, totally. Why wouldn't I want to do that, right? That's so cool. And it's so inspiring doing talks like that. They're nerve-wracking because I am human. Like, you know, you're, okay, I got to go talk for an hour in front of these people, an hour and a half or whatever I have to do that day. And I definitely get that, like that, oh, I'm going to go play a hockey game nervousness, like before the talks. But at the end of the day, when people come up to you and say, I was really inspired by your talk and thank you for sharing your story with us, that's what really gets me. And that's why I love doing those. So they're pretty cool.
And what's sort of, I know you're talking about one of the lessons being don't miss your opportunity, don't miss your chance. What are some of the other important lessons that you're teaching the youth?
Just to be a good person, you know, like don't miss out on your opportunities, but your opportunity doesn't have to be like not everyone's going to have like dreams of being like a professional hockey player or like a musician or stuff like that. Just like, if your goal is to be a good community person, to be a good mother or father, or be, you know, just be like positive and like in a healthy person, and just to be good for yourself and loving yourself and spreading that throughout, then hats off to you. Like my message is like to not like have everything just like to be fame and stuff like that and all that crazy stuff. It's just to be a good person in general. And I think that's something that, you know, this world kind of like, you know, it seems like this world's trying to do that, but also there is backlash and stuff and negativity in this world. So I think just like whatever your goals and aspirations are, just to be positive and good in that manner.
Right. And if you're going after fame, go after it, because with fame, you can have power and influence and the intention behind what you do, because that makes a big difference. I think if it's, you know, you want fame because you want to be seen,
and that's
different.
That's a little narcissistic, right?
Oh, Damien, what do you know about narcissistic tendencies? Were there any narcissists on that show?
Yeah.
All right.
I guess like everyone loves their 15 seconds, right? But I think at the end of the day, like, how humble are you going to be when the limelight is shown on you, right? So I think that's very important. And to give back after all is said and done, what are you in it for? Are you in it for yourself? Well, yes, that is true, because you got to love yourself and what you're doing, but also to like to spread the love and give back to your community and give back to those people who have supported you through your journey, right? So everything's two sides.
Right. You are working on, I don't want to say this name wrong, but you're building and naming, or you've already done that. There's you have to hum.
You're talking about the trail?
Yeah. How do you say it? Because I'm like looking at it. I'm like, I don't want to attempt
Basket Watiaz. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So it basically means the little trail. It means the big trail.
Right.
So this is just part of my recreation job in Nadleh. Just, you know, we've been working on some mountain bike trails, some hiking trails and stuff like that for the summertime. Well, I guess you could snowshoe it up it right now, but it's just harder to assess the dangerous trees in the wintertime because of the winter and stuff like that. So I would say it's safe to go up there, but, you know, I guess that's what our people do. They're always in the bush, but it's just another trail we have. It's the little trail that meets the big trail. Traditionally, the big trail is a Nadleh trail that goes from Nadleh Whut'en to Nadleh or Fort St. James area. And it's just a traditional pack trail that we have. So it's pretty cool that this mountain connects to like that Nadleh trail, but then it veers back up to Nadleh Mountain, which is Basket Mountain. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
What's the history there?
Yeah, the history is just it's Nadleh Mountain. It's a sacred area as well. And it's connected to the Nadleh Trail, which is, it goes all the way back. Before that, it was like a traditional trail for packing and trading goods and stuff like that. And then once the Hudson's Bay Company came in and like, you know, had traders like James Douglas and stuff like that come in. So there's the history of the fur trade and trading resources and whatnot from our little tiny reserve in Nadleh Whut'en and between the Stewart Lake region.
Right on.
Yeah, so it's cool.
So how long did it take to sort of, because you had to clear that trail out, and like how long have you been working? Is it done now?
Yeah, it's done. So now it's just maintained. It's taken days and days, weeks, I guess you could say. But we were fortunate enough to have that trail built by us when we were kids. Before I took off to play hockey in Saskatchewan, I was into like extreme mountain biking. So us as little kids got a head start when we were like 14, 13 years old to build that trail. So we actually like slashed that trail out when we were little kids and like built mountain bike trails in there. So, and then once I kind of left for hockey, I stopped extreme mountain biking because I was going to get hurt because I was sailing off these huge jumps everywhere, right? So I was like, okay, I can't be doing this. I'm going to get injured. And then one year we had a huge snowfall, like such a huge snowfall that all the trees were like bent and stuff like that because it was so heavy. So the trail was kind of ruined. And then once I moved back, I don't know, like 10 years later, 11 years later, or whenever I started my recreation job, that's when we kind of like went back to the trail and was like, let's rename this trail traditionally because it does connect with the Nadleh Whut'en Trail. I got an elder to name the trail, got permission for that. And then, cleared the trail, took all the old dangerous bike jumps out, worked with my Uncle Brian, who's like a professional faller, to like clear it all out with me. And we got a bunch of volunteers to do that. We had a guy come in and we built like the trail at like a mountain bike style, like because before when we were kids we just straight lined it down like crazy kids, and we didn't realize that you can actually make a trail go down like in an S version, so you don't have to be extreme hardcore all the time. So it was pretty funny. So it's cool. We brought that trail back to life 10 years later, and now it's got a name, and it's a pretty cool little tourist attraction, and it's awesome. It's an awesome ride. It takes about going full tilt, full speed. I have like my double suspension mountain bike that I get to ride around now. It took me about 6.5 minutes to get down, so that's going as fast as I can. So it's a nice little ride.
Right on. Yeah. What about snowshoes? Have you been out?
Not with snowshoes. Last time I was up, I went up on a horse ride with my mom and Emma. So that was right before the winter time. So that was the last time I went up there. But yeah, we checked it and we clear it. I think we cleared it 3 times this year just to make sure, like, we cleared the initial trail, and then we went back and checked for dangerous trees, and then we checked for dangerous trees one more time. So once the winter's over, we'll probably go do that again after the snow clears.
Yeah, probably takes a little bit to maintain that.
Yeah, and it's awesome though, because that's all we're doing now is maintaining it, right? We don't have to clear the trail anymore. We don't have to slash anything anymore.
Well, that's not so bad. It's a good reason to get out.
Yeah.
So you had also gone, I know you were given a blanket. You had the traditional blanket. You had received a blanket, and it was for a labor market partnership and Aboriginal skills.
Oh yeah, just one of the
development.
Yeah, that was their program that they were running, but it was just another motivational talk that I did. That one was in Burns Lake. I guess just receiving the blanket is just an honor and acknowledgement of like, coming to, traditionally, like we'd always pay through like gifts and stuff. So it's just like me being honored through a gift traditionally, and just honoring me being there, and vice versa. Them letting me speak on behalf of their traditional lands and territories, and vice versa. So it's the ultimate honor, and it was really cool
to receive a blanket.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a very good honor, and I've done it. They did it for me in Regina, Saskatchewan. They gave me moccasins. That was really cool. So it's like I get a little bonus every time I go to talk at these things. I get like, and then when they did a welcome home dinner for me in Nadleh too, as well, where I got blanketed too. So it's super cool, They're all with super cool traditional designs and stuff like that. I love them. It's an honor, and it's also a pretty good bonus, I'd say.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
So what are some of your favorite traditions in your area? I know that your sister has a smokehouse. As that's sort of like, that's traditional. I don't know if it's a tradition, but I think
the biggest, like, what kind of Nadleh surrounds himself on is like, you know, where the salmon return, right? So the sockeye salmon come and the salmon run comes every year. That's like kind of happens in the August area, a little bit of July, but mostly August. I find that's like kind of cool because that means brings like all the community together. This year it didn't happen because of the mudslide and stuff like that. So are people respectful enough and stopped fishing entirely? But I think that's like one of the favorite times for me individually, and also just in the community sense, because it brings the whole community to the Nadleh Bridge, and everyone's like, you know, gathering their resources for the winter time, which is like salmon and stuff like that. So I think that's like number one on my list is where the salmon return. And it's cool. Get to set net and all that, and like get to the smokehouse and dry your salmon, half dry it or can it or whatever you kind of do, and get ready for your winter food.
So you'd say that's probably your favorite tradition of the area?
Yeah, for sure. And it's kind of what our people thrive upon as well.
Right on. Yeah, that's one thing I was going to say is in the sense you're so fortunate that you have a sense of community. Because I feel like there's a lot of people that want to feel like they're a part of a community, but we're so disconnected. I think in a lot of like, you know, cities, like metro areas, suburbs, whatever. And I would say that you're really fortunate in that sense to have that community. And even though maybe people might not be like, you know, a cousin or like a sibling, but I imagine there's like a certain amount of like, does your community feel like family to you, even if they're maybe not blood related?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, entirely. And it's cool because like, you know, you can only do things 100% all the time, right? So like, you know, obviously you got to take your me time too. So like when those little sprints and spurts come of like the salmon run and brings your whole community together, it, like, you know, you get your little fix of community, and then you go back and do your thing again, and then whatever else is on the list during and throughout the year. You know, because like too much of a good thing can be too much sometimes, I guess you could say. So like, It's good to have like everything in balance and context and in even keel. So you got to appreciate when the community comes in together like that for certain things, even just like a potlatch in general too, and just getting like, you know, Christmas time, like you can name all the holidays we kind of have and stuff like that. So that's just the salmon run is definitely adding to that list.
Right on. And then also, I was going to say, I imagine that with having like such a tight knit community, you're saying about how it's nice to get your fix, but I imagine what you're alluding to is also having sort of not everybody always knowing your business or in your business.
Yeah. And just like, it's just like the motto of loving yourself, you know, and being happy of who you are, and like making lots of people. And I noticed the big thing with First Nations people in general is we constantly are giving and giving and giving and giving. And what we got to remember is like we also matter ourselves too. So like sometimes you need some me time, and don't be afraid to take that. It's not selfish or anything. It's just like making sure that you're happy too, because like our people are such a big-hearted people, are always giving out and stuff like that. So it's just like, you know, there's two sides of the equation. So make sure you don't ignore one or the other. Do all of it, you know.
Find balance. Yes, yeah. This is something I've been noticing with all the guests I talk to. It kind of comes back to the balance, finding the balance. Yeah,
the universal or holistic point of view, whatever you kind of want to call it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I know we've been chatting for a while here, and we'll probably wrap it up pretty soon, but I just wanted to ask you, like, if you were to give people like a really important message, or like sort of like a final note, what would that be? I know we've talked about a lot of like really important things today, but if you can leave us on a final note, you can take a moment.
Yeah, let me see. I don't know. Just be a good person, you know, be positive. You know, there's a lot of negative things and a lot of negative wormholes we can go down in this world, you know, and it's easy to get caught up in that, whatever, if your past is negative and stuff like that. Just kind of relating to like, you know, be resilient. People do like being a First Nations person coming from like the dark history of Canada's past and stuff like that, you know. At the end of the day, we're trying to do good, and we're trying to, you know, get rid of all the intergenerational trauma and fix it. So like I think just to be a good person in general and not get too caught up in like the self-absorption in this world and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, you know, your family and friends and the people who are close to you are the ones who matter. And that's one of the things I've kind of learned through this kind of crazy journey is like, you know, I always go out into the world, and when I go do these crazy things in life, whether it's going to play hockey on the other side of the world or like the Big Brother thing, I always come back to home. And home is like where it matters, and like my people is where it matters. And so just whatever you do in this world, be humble and love yourself and love others around you. And just it's not going to be perfect all the time, and it's not going to be consistent all the time, but if you fall off the road, get back on the path where you're meant to be, and just you know try and stay the course as much as you can.
Well, that is so well said. It's been awesome catching up with you too, because it's been a while.
Yeah, you too, Shanti. Yeah, it's awesome.
It's been a while since I've seen any of the Ketlos. So.
Yeah, right. I think the last time we seen each other was in
I was in Lynn Valley, I think.
Lynn Valley, yeah, we were swimming.
Yeah, at the canyon.
Yeah.
I was trying to think back to the last time. Well, honestly, just say hello to the whole family and tell them that I say Happy New Year. I mean, I guess they might be listening to this. Who knows? But
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Tell them I say hello, and thank you so much for coming on and sharing some really important history as well as your own story and inspiration, and taking the time. It's actually been a lot of fun. I've been enjoying the whole time.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me, Shanti. I appreciate it, and it's awesome to see you doing this podcast and like you doing your own thing and coming into your zone. It's really cool, and I'm happy for you, and I'm proud of you. It's really cool. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. It was it was a privilege. It was a privilege and an honor.
Yeah, you too. Okay, take it easy and tell everybody I say hello. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
Bye.
See ya.
Thanks again for joining me on another journey through the Shantima podcast. Please have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, dear friends, and remember to stay humble and be a good human being. Namaste and farewell until next time. Bye!
My words again, always question me. Speak the same name, but the truth won't follow me. Always to pretend, up in my own head. Sleep in bed and nails scratch the surface from where you sleep. On a quest to see, change your misery. Try to turn the page, higher vision, let me be. Dark cloud rise above, embrace with all my love. As we move into the rain, by my side with all my pain, let's rise. Heart of mine. Screaming in my mind, demons all the time. When you play the game, son, you gotta toe the line. Standing in the rain, feeling hella pain. Pumping in my heart and it's racing in my veins. Lord, me against the world, back against the wall. Watching tripping bitches, son. When bitches tripping, boy, you gotta let them fall. Gotta let them go. Break the fucking chain, kill the pain. Feel the rage you get from just another girl. And this time, I'll see it through. Set the heart of mine empty. I'll wait for you. I told a lie. Here now, don't say goodbye. Standing in the rain, live fast. You know we'll try. You feel this heart of mine. Heart of mine. We're rising to the sun. Our path has just begun. One chance to live your life. Leave behind all your strife. We'll pardon to the sea. Create our destiny. Reach towards the sky. Live with love, sacrifice. Yeah, you feel this heart of mine. This heart forever bleeds. This empty heart of mine.